Each year in the United States, thousands of major crimes go unsolved. When the case has gone cold and police have nowhere to turn, they seek assistance from the public. This is a program dedicated to solving these cases. This is Crime Stoppers Case Files.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for another Northeast Ohio edition of Crime Stoppers Case Files. I'm Bob France. There are over 1,400 Crime Stoppers organizations operating around the world. These organizations are empowering citizens like you and like me to become directly and anonymously involved in fighting crime in our communities. Each week on this television program, we'll share facts with you from unsolved cases, and you'll have the opportunity to submit information that may help investigators, possibly earning yourself a cash reward in the process without ever having to give your name. Let's get to work. On April 4th, 2009, 29-year-old Jason Cummings was robbed at gunpoint, then shot and killed. Here's the story.
Jason was a really precious child to me. The time that I was pregnant with him, I was told that I had cancer and I was not supposed to be able to have him. I had lost 2 children before him, but God blessed me with this child. And pretty much all through the time that he was a little boy, he was so sweet, but he had to contend with the fact that I was sick.
I met Jason in June of 2004 when I came back from Kentucky from visiting family. We hit it off great and we made ourselves a couple from then on.
He loved his family. He loved his grandmother, who he affectionately called Grammy.
We stayed with his mother for a few years, and then we moved into our own place in East Cleveland for a year. And then we got married July 7, 2007, which was the happiest day of my life. Jason worked at a couple barbershops, but then he found a place on 114th in Superior, which he loved.
He loved cutting hair. And I think he liked it because it gave him an opportunity to meet different people. He had gone to Columbus to get his license. And when he came home that Sunday, we went to church and he took his license up to the altar to my pastor. And he told my pastor that he was dedicating his license to God. He said, this is not just a career, it's a ministry. He would go to different barbershops, I know, and he would work, and they always said, you can't have religion in here, you can't talk about religion. But somewhere around it, my son would work it out, and they would end up talking about the Lord and talking about the Bible, and he kept a Bible right there on his stand.
He was a great supporter of the community, always willing to help out anyone who needed it, hired individuals, trained them at the barbershop.
I'll never forget at the funeral home, there was a woman there that was crying. She was hysterical. She said, ma'am, I have 5 boys. They all have 5 different fathers, and every last father was abusive to me. She said, but your son Jason would cut my son's hair every 2 weeks free. And he never charged. And he was such a gentleman. And he was the first man that I've ever known that was a gentleman to me. And there was times when she didn't have lunch money for her son and Jason would give them money. He believed in God, and I have to believe that the night that this fatal thing happened, that he prayed, and then it was God's will.
911, you need police, fire, and ambulance.
Police, a man just got shot up here on 108th and Olivet. He's laying by the alley.
108th and Olivet?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
On April 4th, 2009, at approximately 11:40 p.m., the victim, Jason Cummings, stayed around at the barbershop to watch a basketball game with co-workers. He owned a barbershop on Superior Avenue. They closed up the shop around 10:30 p.m. On his way home, he stopped to bring food back to the house, and also stopped at the corner store. He cut down the street of East 108th, approaching Olivet, when he walked past 4 black males. After walking past them, 2 of the males from the group approached the victim, told him to lay it down. They then proceeded to go through the victim's pockets. They pistol whipped him, and once the victim had fallen, they shot him in the leg. The suspects then joined the other two and proceeded to flee down East 108th toward Hathaway Avenue. The victim was conscious and talking when the witnesses responded to assist him. Although the victim was only shot in the leg, it happened to hit a major artery, resulting in the victim bleeding out. He was transported by EMS to the hospital. Everything was done possible to assist the victim. However, with the blood loss that he had suffered at the scene, they were unable to assist him and he expired.
I took him to work, kissed him goodbye. I told him I'd see him later. That whole night, he was on my mind and I had no idea why. My brother called me and told me that the police wanted me. I looked at my phone, it said exactly 12:45. Went down to the door. The police asked me, did I know Jason Cummings? I said, yes. He said, who are you to him? I said, I'm his wife. They told me he had been shot and he was at Huron Hospital.
Crime Stoppers is an international organization dedicated to bringing resolution to unsolved crimes. Members of the public work with police to make the world a safer place. Since 1975, thousands of Crime Stoppers organizations worldwide have helped make over 1 million arrests. Crime Stoppers acts as your advocate, keeping you anonymous and ensuring that your information gets to the right law enforcement agency.
On April 4, 2009 at 11:40 p.m., the victim, Jason Cummings, was walking home, turned down East 108th and passed by 4 black males between the age of 17 and 20. After passing them, 2 of the black males separated from the group, approached the victim, and proceeded to rob him of his property. During the robbery, they pistol whipped the victim and then proceeded to shoot him in the leg before taking the rest of his property and fleeing with the other 2 suspects towards the Hathaway Avenue area. The victim was transported by EMS to the hospital. However, he succumbed to his injuries and died at the hospital. We have witnesses on the scene that have described for us the events that occurred to Jason Cummings that evening. The victim was conscious and talking when the witnesses responded to assist him. However, he was unable to provide any further description of the suspects other than what the witnesses stated. 4 black males between the ages of 17 and 20 years of age, recognized from the neighborhood, believed to be from the Hathaway Avenue area.
It has changed my life dramatically. I actually moved off the streets, further away from what had happened. But just this past year, I moved back because I felt like he wanted me to be close to him.
But I lost 28 family members that same year. This year and that year was so unbearable. It's more than most can handle. But it's God that bared me up.
Anybody that knows anything or seen anything, just please help us solve this and let him rest in peace. Because I know he's not resting until we find the person that has done this to him.
We have people that actually told me they saw it, but they're afraid to come forward. And so I appeal today, please, please come forward. Come in the name of Jesus, come forward.
We're asking one with any information on the possible suspects involved in the death of Jason Cummings. If you wish to remain anonymous, you can contact Crime Stoppers, and there is reward money available for anyone that provides information on the suspects.
Jason Cummings was a good man. He helped young people with guidance and advice, and he gave free haircuts to those who couldn't afford to pay. He's no longer alive because a couple of thieves wanted the few dollars he had in his pockets. If you know anything about this case and you want to help him get justice, please call Crime Stoppers. The reward for this case is up to $2,000. Almost every neighborhood has a handyman. You know, a go-to person who can fix just about anything and have fun doing it. Well, Grady Smith II was just such a neighbor, but his neighborhood lost him on July 20th, 2007, when he was killed while working on a car. Here's the story.
Grady Smith II was my firstborn son. He was born October the 21st, 1979. He weighed 6 pounds, 7 ounces. He was just a bubbly baby, you know, just loved to smile.
He was my first nephew, firstborn. and I remember the day he was born. I was in college, my second year, and I got a phone call, and they told me I was an aunt. And I went running up and down the hallways, and I'm knocking on everybody's door, and I'm screaming, I'm an aunt, I'm an aunt, I'm an aunt.
He went to school at age 4 because he loved to count and he knew his numbers. He was excelled in school. He got all A's and he went to school every day. He called me his mommy all-star. Then he went to Jameson, where he started his football career. And from there he went to South High and he played football and he wrestled. He went on to John Carroll and he pursued his football career even further. And he always wanted to be a superstar football player, and he ended up becoming a semi-professional football player for the Miami Silverbacks. And he hurt his leg, and that's when he went back to Manor Park and to pursue his career as the cook. He was a culinary artist. He worked for Manor Park, and he could carve an apple into the shape of an animal.
He was a loving, caring person, very kind. He loved to play a lot of jokes on people. If we needed anything, he was always there for us.
Good kid, always happy, just a lot of fun.
He loved to joke, talk in different people's voices like a comedian. He had a smile that would kill, and we called him the Gentle Giant because he was so big, you know, and muscular.
He got real big, really strong. And he would always pick me up, and I'd scream, and I'd tell him to put me down. But I loved it.
Grady was married July 16th of 2007. He and his wife were married for 2 years before he was murdered. They were expecting their first child, January of 2008. Grady was excited that he was going to become a first-time father, but he never got that opportunity to meet his child because he was murdered before his wife had the baby.
911, what is your emergency?
Emergency is a guy just got shot next door to me on 65th.
Somebody just got shot?
Yeah, he just got shot. He's laying on the ground.
Did you see anything?
No, I heard a gunshot.
All right. We'll get the police out and an ambulance.
The date is Friday, July 20th, 2007, and the time is about 10 minutes to 5. Police are summoned to that location because of gunshots and a male shot. I responded to the area. From the homicide unit, the victim expired on scene. What we learn is we have a male working in his car, Grady Smith. Now, by talking to people, Grady Smith is a large person, big guy. Wouldn't want to mess with him in the streets. I mean, he stood 6'1", went 300 pounds. But everybody called him a gentle giant. And his passion was working on cars. He had a nice Cadillac that he loved. At the time this thing happens, at the time the shooting takes place, Grady Smith is in his backyard. He's working in his car. We understand that at the time, he wants to put a stereo system in his car. The hood's up, the battery's disconnected. Grady's got all of his tools, and he's leaned over inside the car. As far as we're able to find out, gunshot rings out, loud gunshot. Grady is shot in the head, 1 bullet wound. They find Grady slumped on the ground. I mean, he's working on the car, he's leaned over inside the hood of the car, probably never knew what happened to him.
July 16th was Grady's 2-year anniversary. He came over to my home after he and his wife had attended the movies. And July 20th was 5 days after his anniversary, he was murdered. I had came from visiting my grandmother who was in the nursing home. She had a stroke, and my sister, and she had just come home from Florida. It was the day after her birthday.
I was at my house, and my niece was saying, she got a phone call. My niece got a phone call, and she said, what do you mean? They found Grady dead in the driveway, and she gave me the phone, and she said, Auntie, there's somebody saying that Grady's dead. So I screamed. My mom was in the kitchen, and they said they found Grady dead in the driveway. And I said, I gotta go over there.
And I just jumped up, and just grabbed the phone and started trying to call his wife and trying to call him, and I couldn't get an answer. And so I just hopped in my car
We rounded the corner, and all I kept thinking was, please God, don't let this be my nephew, please. We got around the corner, and you could see all the yellow tape. And I just couldn't believe it. Who would shoot him? He wouldn't hurt anybody. He would never hurt anybody. Because he's such a good young man.
In 1975, the first Crime Stoppers organization was formed by a detective who believed media attention helped solve cases. Since then, thousands of Crime Stoppers organizations have been formed around the globe with the same mission, encouraging members of the public to stand up against crime. Every 14 minutes, Crime Stoppers help solve a crime somewhere in the world. Get involved.
On Friday, July 20th, 2007, 27-year-old Grady Smith is working in his car in his backyard. At that point in time, somebody walked up to him, put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger and killed Grady Smith. I have a lot of people outside, there's stores out there, a lot of bars in the area, a lot of people walking around. Somebody out there had to see something, either a couple of minutes before Grady was shot, at the time the gunshot rang out, took his life, or immediately thereafter. If you think why, we don't really know. I mean, could it have been a robbery? Yeah. But the only thing is as Grady was shot, he dropped on the ground, he had his wallet with him, he had his rings with him, he had the keys for the car up there with him in his pants pocket. Nobody went through his pants pocket, so, you know, robbery may be a motive, maybe not. Could it have been a retaliation for something? Well, you talked around to a lot of people, a lot of friends, co-workers, people in the neighborhood. This guy would go out of his way for you if you asked him for a favor. He'd loan you money. If your car was broken down, he'd fix it for you. If you didn't have the money to get parts, he'd loan you the money or he'd go out and get the parts just to work with you. I mean, that's the kind of guy he was. So, was it retaliation for something? We just don't know.
My family's very afraid because we don't know who killed him. We don't know why. And we think that it could be any one of us at any time because we don't know. Grady was a wonderful young man. And at his funeral, I couldn't believe all of the people who were there who mourned for him. My nephew was just 27 years old. He knew a lot of people. He touched a lot of lives. He didn't deserve to not see his son. He has a beautiful son named Grady that he never got a chance to see.
I'm devastated, you know, over the loss of my son. I'm still struggling, you know, trying to find out, you know, who actually killed my son and why, because he didn't bother anybody. You know, he was a good person. You could have just asked him for whatever it is you wanted instead of taking the most precious thing from him, which was his life.
I've got a mom out there, her heart's broken. She lost a son. I can't picture that. I've got kids of my own. I can't picture one of my kids leaving this earth before I did. I mean, that's not the way it's supposed to work.
If you know who did it, if that person told you, let us know. We want some kind of closure.
We're looking for help out there. If you need to get a hold of me, you can contact me by dialing the number for the Cleveland Police Department's Homicide Unit. My name, once again, is Detective Joe Shinowski.
His neighbors said that when Grady Smith II helped people, he would sometimes pay for their auto parts out of his own pocket, just so that they would have a way to get to work. Most of us would agree that Cleveland and every neighborhood needs more guys like him. Instead, we lost Grady in a senseless act of violence. Police don't have much to go on, so if you know anything about this tragic crime, call Crime Stoppers. You will not have to give your name, and you can earn thousands of dollars in cash just for doing the right thing. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Crime Stoppers Case Files, where you are empowered to help clean up your own streets, our streets. Remember, our towns and our neighborhood are a direct reflection of what we allow them to be. So let's all do our part to make them safe. And we'll see you next week for another edition of Crime Stoppers Case Files.